a guy right across the hall from Neil, and he had one. And I'm telling you, he goes everywhere.
Yeah. Well, one of the problems at his place is he's on the second floor, and they have one elevator, and it's a small elevator. Like if he gets on there with that scooter, no one else can get on there, and I'm not even sure how you can do it. But White Rock Court on White Rock Trail. I do not know. There's a bunch of Wilshire people there. Oh, good. Yep. All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm trying out the new stand today. Hopefully it won't go flying off. So if you're late coming in, maybe Charlene has them. There's some crumb cake if you're interested. I made it. You do not want to know how much butter is in that thing. Butter's good for you.
Fat doesn't make you fat.
Fat doesn't make you fat. Okay. Yeah. Well, we won't talk about that either then. Yeah.
I watch YouTube for all the recipes, and this guy was saying it was for waffles. There's so much butter in the recipe.
Yeah.
You don't have to put anything
On top of it. Yeah. Right.
I still put it on.
Yeah, it's a habit, isn't it? Yeah, that's like, now, hopefully y'all are not, I see people do this in restaurants all the time. Food comes out, they don't even touch it, and they start pouring the salt on it. Right? How do you know until you taste it? Always needs more salt, right?
And why would you want to only taste the salt?
All right. We've got to...
Today, not meddling.
Yeah, meddling. All right, now we're meddling in this. All right, so I got it. I love to bake, and I made a peach cobbler the week before. So this recipe, and for those of you who are interested, I learned something. If I make it again, the crumbly part you're supposed to mix into the batter of the base part. But I was not aggressive enough with it because I was afraid I was going to overdo it. And you're supposed to use your fingers and, work it in. And I did to an extent, so that's why it's a little clumpy. Little clumpy. So anyhow, this is a great, I heard this cookbook author interviewed on KRA. I'm struggling to remember her name. But the cookbook has a very memorable name. It's called The Peanut Butter Cookie That Changed My Life.
Oh my goodness.
It's a great cookbook. It's all baking stuff. So, yeah. All right. Hello, everyone. And, I think Jim has been keeping us up to date on the fire situation down at First Baptist Dallas. I think everyone's seen that.
Could you repeat what he told me?
Well, let me just tell you quickly. Allison and I drove down there last night. We had been out to dinner, and we went by, and we were able to park and walk over to the fence. And Jim's got a lot of photos if you want to see them. I'll have a story this afternoon. I'm waiting to sort of see what happens this morning at their service to do that. No, they do not. One report said maybe in the basement.
Yes, they're saying, but possibility. But they also said they heard explosions. But at the same time, they were doing some renovation there, so they could have had big old tanks of varnish in there.
Yeah, just don't know. So the news reports are misleading on this. And I really have a bone to pick, even with the Dallas Morning News on this, because they keep calling it a chapel.
Yeah, because the was trying to emphasize this is not the main worship center.
Right. But it's still the historic sanctuary.
Secondary chapel that we use for contemporary service.
Right. It's not a chapel like this. It's the original main sanctuary where Chris will... Right. So one of the news channels had a drone up that was really impressive to see. You might find that. I have a buddy who lives on the 27th floor of a high-rise just down the street, and he was watching the whole thing from his apartment and sent me a video of it. And we were texting when the roof collapsed. So anyhow, really tragic, really tragic. We're not,
My family was just,
lots of history there, right?
they've been married.
People have been married, buried, saved, baptized. A lot of people through there, a lot of connections. 1891 is when the building was built. Well, it was a fire. They don't know the origin. So, yeah. Yes.
My dad had a deal that my sister and I would get a teaching certificate if nothing else when we went to college.
Right.
So I did my student teaching for Robert Jeffers' mother.
Oh, okay. Who was a journalism professor at Lake Highlands High School, right?
No, Hillcrest.
Oh, at Hillcrest? She had Hillcrest. Oh, sorry, wrong school. Yeah.
I found out very quickly that I was not cut out to be a teacher, and that's what sent me. But she had the number one news, Hillcrest Hurricane had the number one newspaper in the state, Judy Jeffries.
Right, yeah, okay. Yeah, I had a music theory teacher who helped me understand also that I was not cut out to be a musician.
Is it as old or older than Santuario de Guadalupe?
Oh, how old is the Guadalupe Cathedral?
It's older.
I think it's about 1907 or something.
So was First Baptist before it?
Yes.
I saw one place said 1890, and one, I think that's when the congregation.
No, First Baptist, that building was built in 1891, you said, right?
Started in 1890, finished in June of 91. But they were founded in 1868.
Yeah, founded in 1868. Yeah.
Sonacal, then they built their first building on the corner of, where the Lincoln Tower is.
Yeah.
On that sharp corner at Acker.
Oh, the sharp corner. Yeah.
Sharp corner, they were there. Then they were going to build a new one. About that time, they mended ways of feuding with another church, First Baptist, and they decided to join back together. They said, we need a bigger place.
Okay.
We built on Irving instead.
So, just a quick little bit of Dallas Baptist history here in this. So, First Baptist obviously is the first church, the First Baptist church built in Dallas. Gaston Avenue Baptist Church, that many of our folks have connections to, was the second Baptist church founded in Dallas, but where it was on what's now Ross Avenue, over by Baylor Hospital, was not part of the city of Dallas at the time.
Oh my goodness.
It was its own community on Gaston. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Gaston.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Gaston, but it's at
Gaston and Washington.
Gaston, yeah.
The Waddling Tower Church.
No, it's not Washington. It's on down. It's across from the Starbucks. It's like Haskell.
Oh, that's where it is now. But it was originally at Washington and Gaston.
Okay.
And it was East Dallas Baptist. And then East Dallas became part of Dallas, so they changed it to Washington
Yeah.
Avenue Baptist. And then they decided we need more, so they moved down to Haskell.
Okay. So, yes, Melanie.
Had to go to Dr. Jeffers' Twitter X page or whatever, and somebody had some history. I guess they were talking about they were able to do this history because of all the archives.
Right.
Anyway, there was a whole thing about these pastors who killed another one. They had a big fight. Somebody named Chip.
Oh, no, you're talking about J. Frank Norris.
Norris and Pruitt.
Yeah, so, okay, we're not going to get off too deep in this, but this is an interesting thing, okay? This is Texas Baptist history, right? And we care about this stuff. So, and O.S. Hawkins has written an interesting book about the rivalry between George W. Truett and J. Frank Norris. So, let me back up to where I was, and I'm going to get to that point, okay? So, the Second Baptist Church ends up being called Gaston Avenue Baptist Church. And that, again, Baylor Hospital was not the city of Dallas at the time, right? So they grow and they become very big. Their heyday was in the 40s and 50s. And they had 2,000 and 3,000 people there. And it was a big, big church. And they had a longtime pastor who was beloved there. And then things just sort of fell apart after that because that area started transitioning. The church made a series of ill-fated decisions, as some churches often do, and they ended up 30 years ago selling that property to Criswell College, moving up here to Royal and Greenville, and they're now Gaston Oaks Baptist Church, and that's, we're involved in them, and that's where Gaston Christian Center is. So that's the heritage of all that, right? So J. Frank Norris was a fundamentalist with a capital F. Like, he is the poster child for fundamentalism, right? But he's best known as the pastor of First Baptist Church of Fort Worth, which, by the way, the remnant of that church is barely in Fort Worth. It's way out on, I don't know if that's 820 or what is that? It's north. It's way northeast Fort Worth, on whatever that is up there. They're still an independent fundamentalist. Anyhow, they were part of the BGCT at the time. And he and Truett, who was at First Baptist Dallas, had this long-standing argument. What most people don't know is that before Norris was at First Baptist Fort Worth, he was called to be the founding pastor of what became the McKinney Avenue Baptist Church, that, if you know recent Dallas history, most recently, before it was torn down, was a Hard Rock Cafe. Y'all know the building I'm talking about? That was the McKinney Avenue Baptist Church. So Norris built that church up before he was called over to Fort Worth.
So he stepped down while they were almost finished.
That's right.
Building, and they still owed on it. And he said, I'm going to be editor
Of the Baptist Standard.
Instead. And
It's right there. Yeah, so this intersects my history because J. Frank Norris bought the Baptist Standard. Okay, at one point. So this is all sorts of crazy. But here's the next connection. In time, the McKinney Avenue Baptist Church needed a bigger building, and they moved up on Oak Lawn and built what became Highland Baptist Church, that is now Park City's Presbyterian Church. Because over time, that giant sanctuary, that giant building, they dwindled for reasons I don't fully understand, right? And they were down to a small number when Park City's Pres was created out of a split with Highland Park Pres over the issue of women in ministry. This was like 35, 40 years ago, right? And so they started sharing space with the Highland Baptist Church, and then ended up buying the building from them. And Highland Baptist Church moved up by North Park on Bodecker, like in that little, it's in that neighborhood that's sort of southwest of North Park. I mean, you're not going to see it unless you drive by it. It's to the other side of Tom Thumb.
Well, behind it on Bodecker.
Yeah, but it's on the other side of Bodecker. It's in the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's on the same side as Tom.
No, it's not. It's on the other side. Go look it up. Yeah. Yeah, yes. No. There's a Wilshire Baptist Church in Los Angeles on Wilshire Boulevard.
I don't know, on something,
I saw that on Facebook, somebody said Wilshire, and somebody asked, you mean?
There is no Wilshire Baptist Church in Fort Worth. No. No. There's a Wilshire Baptist Church. I've been by it on Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles. It's a small multi-ethnic church. Yeah. I mean, again, we took our name from a theater, the old Wilshire Theater. So that's how we. Anyhow, there's some history for you. It's crazy the way this stuff works out. Oh, by the way, the Highland Baptist Church is now called something else.
It's a cowboy church.
It's a cowboy church. Highland Country Church.
And then the church that was there, moved up to Meadow and Central, took over an office park there, thrived, and then they
that's
the UA.
Yeah, that's
at Park and Central.
It's the Bible church there that's in the theater. It's just a big building swap going on with all this stuff. So it's sort of interesting history. But we've been here since 1951.
what do you know about Ross Avenue Baptist?
Oh, so Ross Avenue Baptist Church has a deep history here, and you know that one, Charlene.
Well, I went there and it's now Cane's Chicken.
Well, they had a fire. I mean,
They had a fire, they had
the murder. Okay, so J. Frank Norris shot a man on a train on the way to the Southern Baptist Convention. Oh, wait, no, maybe I'm sorry. Yeah, who was it who shot someone on the train? J. Frank Norris shot a guy in his office.
And as he was leaving, he pulled out a gun and shot him, and the other guy didn't have a gun, and he shot him in the back, and then he claimed self-defense.
And he got away with it. Yeah. Yeah.
And then his house and his church both burned, and they
Oh, yeah, both his house and his church burned under mysterious circumstances, and they collected insurance.
But then they said he's innocent also.
Okay, so I recommend, if you want to read about this, go get O.S. Hawkins' book on Truett and Norris. And O.S. also has written a book recently, just came out a few months ago, on the history of Criswell. It gives a lot of First Baptist Dallas history. We need to move on, all right? Enough of this. Today, I want us to talk about another great theme of the Bible that we've not hit yet, and that is wisdom. Wisdom. We need some wisdom.
Isn't it sadly lacking? Isn't it sadly lacking?
To be lacking in wisdom.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so when we think of wisdom, what book of the Bible do you think of most?
Solomon.
The Wisdom of Solomon, which is called Proverbs. And the Psalms have some of this. So Solomon is attributed to be the author of the book of Proverbs. And the Old Testament describes Solomon as the wisest man who ever lived. And there's examples of this given. And the whole book of Proverbs is set up from the beginning to be about advice for wisdom. So when you look at Proverbs chapter 1, it says, the Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, for learning about wisdom and instruction, for understanding words of insight, for gaining instruction in wise dealing, righteousness, justice, and equity, to show shrewdness to the simple. By the way, equity is not a new woke term. It's in the Old Testament, y'all. Knowledge and prudence to the young. Let the wise also hear and gain in learning, and the discerning acquire skill, to understand a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. Right? And here's this famous line that you know probably, if I were to ask you, name one Bible verse about wisdom, you would cite this one, Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. NRSV says knowledge, but KJV says wisdom. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Well, ain't that the gospel truth, right? And so throughout the book of Proverbs and elsewhere in the Bible, wisdom is personified as a woman who is speaking to us and guiding us. All right, a woman, y'all, preaching us toward wisdom. Yes, right? So we get to chapter 1, verse 20. Yeah.
Can we get a definition
Of woman?
define wisdom?
Okay, no, yeah, we're going to get there. It's a great question. How do we define wisdom? We're going to get there. Chapter 1, verse 20. Wisdom cries out in the street. In the squares, she raises her voice. At the busiest corner, she cries out. At the entrance of the city gates, she speaks. How long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in their scoffing, and fools hate knowledge? Give heed to my reproof. I will pour out my thoughts to you. I will make my words known to you, because I have called and you have refused, have stretched out my hand and no one heeded, and because you have ignored all my counsel and would have none of my reproof, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when panic strikes you. When panic strikes you like a storm and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, then they will call upon me, wisdom, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but will not find me. It's the opposite of what Jesus says. You will seek me and find me. Because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, would have none of my counsel, and despised all of my reproof. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their way and be sated with their own devices. Whew!
Where were you at the RNC list?
Say again.
Where were you at the RNC list?
Yeah, right. So here's before we get to a definition of wisdom, I want to say this about the biblical context of wisdom. It's important that wisdom is personified as a woman who is speaking to us in life. We're going to get to some other passages in a minute where we will learn the biblical perspective that wisdom was present at creation. Wisdom is inherent in creation. This is really significant, I think, because it is a call. There's the juxtaposition, interchange of the words wisdom and knowledge. To be wise is to have wisdom, right? But historically, at least in the American Christian church, we have given the wrong definition of wisdom, because we end up conflating some of the teachings of Paul in the New Testament, who says, and we'll get to this hopefully today too, that God has confounded the wisdom of the wise, and the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, right? And so people have taken that and said, well, the gospel is something that is the opposite of what worldly wisdom is, and therefore you can only understand it by the Spirit, therefore you don't need no learning, right? All right, hang on one sec. So this is how we get to this old trope that you've heard in your life. Don't go off to that school because they're going to ruin you. Don't go to Baylor because they're going to ruin your religion. Don't get a college degree. Don't get a doctorate. Don't do all those things. For anybody. I mean, this was the thing that's just an old trope, right?
Yeah.
And it's based in religious belief that all you need, this is so pervasive still in fundamentalism that a person who grew up in this church went to Dallas Baptist University not long ago in a psychology class where the only textbook was the Bible. I do not know how they are accredited. I mean, yes, the Bible is a great book. It's not a psychology textbook. That student left and went somewhere else that had real textbooks. Carol Ann.
Oh, I was going to admit my ignorance. What is conflating?
Oh, to conflate is to move together, to merge together, to mix up, right? Right? If you take two ideas, we're talking about pickles and we're talking about oranges, and you bring them together, pickle oranges, right? They're not the same thing, but you bring them together. Yeah, that's that word. So what is wisdom in the Bible? Wisdom is, number one, realizing that you are not as wise as you think you are. That wisdom comes from God, and wisdom is baked into creation. So in a way, wisdom could be called common sense. Wisdom is based, if you listen to all of Proverbs, another theme in here is humility. Humility, right? It's acknowledging that you might not be right, that there might be some other answer to something. So the certainty we hear in people, particularly about religion and politics these days, belies any knowledge of wisdom, right? It is not the right thing. And so wisdom is tapping into eternal truths. Now, the way this has been played out in the Christian church, particularly among evangelicals, is two or three different ways. One iteration of this is the knowledge of God you need a secret decoder ring for, and I, your preacher alone, know the answer to this, and you've got to listen to me because I'm going to explain it to you, right? That's one iteration. The second iteration I mentioned already, and that is It's not book learning. It's just, dancing in the Spirit. And, the Spirit's going to fill you up and teach you the right thing. And then the third iteration is just a simple fundamentalism that says, you know what, whatever the King James Bible says, that's what it is. Jesus read from the King James Bible. If it was good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for me. Y'all, people are crazy. Carol Ann?
I know a lot of people who believe that.
Yes. I'm not lying.
No, you're not. There are a lot of people who believe that strictly. And I will not mention any names or anything, but it's confusing and it's sad.
So just for the record, y'all, the King James Bible was an English translation that didn't even use the original Greek and Hebrew for its translation. It came from the Latin Vulgate, and it was done by emissaries of the king for a purpose in a time. And yes, it has some beautiful language, but it is, the only thing worse might be the Living Bible as far as translations go.
Well, except for that.
And that version we use around here sometimes, Trish.
The RSV is the one that got in so much trouble about the gays.
Well, yeah, right. So, what is wisdom? Wisdom is listening to the internal fountain of knowledge in creation, which tells you some basic things. Gravity is for real. This taps into science as well. And we'll get to that some more in a moment. Let me move forward. Chapter 2 of Proverbs. My child, this is the woman speaking, the woman wisdom. My child, if you accept my words and treasure up my commandments within you, making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your heart to understanding, if you indeed cry out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk blamelessly, guarding the paths of justice and preserving the way of his faithful ones. Then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity, every good path, for wisdom will come into your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant. Knowledge, y'all, actual knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Prudence will watch over you, and understanding will guard you. It will save you from the way of evil, from those who speak perversely, who forsake the paths of uprightness, to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice in doing evil and delight in the perseverance of evil, those whose paths are crooked and who are devious in their ways. That's a beautiful reminder as well. Let me also remind you that this passage from Proverbs is not saying that the Christian Bible as we know it today is the fount of God's wisdom, because the Bible didn't exist when this was written. Not even the Old Testament existed. So this is talking about an innate understanding of wisdom from God in creation in people who stop to pay attention, right? Yes.
Fox and I were driving along yesterday.
Her grandson, who we met at Target yesterday.
Has to do with kind of interpretations of Jesus. We passed a poster that was a Salvador Dali painting advertising an exhibit somewhere. Not 2 minutes later, we pull up beside a truck that has a white Anglo-Saxon Jesus, the traditional blue robe, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Fox is going, well, I think I like Jesus doing the backflip and the other one better. I think Jesus would like the backflip one better.
There's a new painting I saw this morning on Facebook out, and it's Jesus standing in front of an American flag with a maxi pad on his ear. I'm not making this up, y'all. Because of Trump, yeah. Oh, yeah, because people at the RNC were putting bandages on their ears. Yeah. Sorry, I said the word maxi pad. Okay. I've said worse than that in here before. And, yes, a voice from the other side of the room.
Okay, if Proverbs was, the Bible was written after Proverbs, where did they find Proverbs?
Okay, great question. How did Proverbs come to be? So Proverbs, like many other books of the Old Testament, was written down over time. And there came a point later in which they were collected to be accepted as the Jewish canon of Scripture, right? Wow. So again, we have to remind ourselves, the Bible is 66 books written by different people at vastly different times. It is a Reader's Digest collection. It is not a novel that was written with a through line, right? It is an entire library of books in one bound thing, right? It is letters and books. It's different histories and things. It was not that someone sat down and said, well, let's write the Bible, right? Whereas, for example, the Quran, that's the scripture followed by Muslims, is a very different collection of writings and sayings by Muhammad, or interpretations. The Book of Mormon, that's followed by Mormonism, right? It is the alleged interpretation of these golden plates found by Joseph Smith, right?
It conveniently vanished into
that no one else has ever seen, right? So the Bible's not like those things. The Bible is like it's like going to the library and picking up a whole pile of books and then smashing them into one thing, right? That's what this is. So Proverbs is one of the older books in the Bible. It obviously was captured and written down in the time of Solomon and by his followers later, but it is unique in its appeal to wisdom. And we get this over and over here. And the point I'm trying to make out of all of this is there is something innate in creation about wisdom. We might, again, call it common sense, but it involves listening and learning and being open to new ideas, right? So when I say this is not, that the Bible is not the compendium of all wisdom, is not to say the Bible doesn't contain wisdom. The problem with worshiping the Bible is you make it the end all, and you end up teaching psychology classes at college only with the Bible. You're making it something it does not even portray itself to be, right? All right, I'm off on a tangent. Let's leave Proverbs for a minute, and let's go to Deuteronomy chapters. Oh, wait. Proverbs 8. We got to go one more place in Proverbs. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Is Ecclesiastes not one of the wisdom teachings?
It is. Ecclesiastes is as well. All right. Proverbs chapter 8. And wisdom here is, again, this is the personification of a woman. Does not wisdom call, and does not understanding raise her voice? On the heights, beside the way, at the crossroads, she takes her stand. Beside the gates in front of the town, at the entrance of the portals, she cries out. To you, O people, I call, and my cry is to all that live. O simple ones, learn prudence. Acquire intelligence, you who lack it. Hear, for I will speak noble things, and from my lips will come what is right. For my mouth will utter truth. Wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are righteous. There is nothing twisted or crooked in them. They are all straight to one who understands, and right to those who find knowledge. Take my instruction instead of silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. Side note, remember George Beverly Shea? I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold. All right, what we're living in today is people who want silver and gold to get to Jesus, right? It is rampant in televangelism. It's rampant in politics. It is a bastardization of the gospel of Jesus Christ to think that Jesus wants you to be in a better tax bracket, have lower taxes, and more economically successful, especially on the backs of someone else. This is not the gospel from either of the Old Testament or the New Testament. All right, verse 12. I, wisdom, live with prudence, and I attain knowledge and discretion. The fear of the Lord is hatred of evil. Pride and arrogance in the way of evil are perverted speech I hate. I have good advice and sound wisdom. I have insight. I have strength. By me, wisdom, kings reign, and rulers decree what is just. By me, rulers rule, and nobles, all who govern rightly. I love those who love me, and those who seek me diligently find me. Riches and honor are with me, enduring wealth and prosperity. My fruit is better than gold, even fine gold, and my yield than choice silver. I walk in the way of righteousness and the paths of justice, endowing with wealth those who love me and filling their treasuries. Wisdom. Not trickery. Yes.
Here lately, a few weeks ago, I started reading, including in my Bible reading, the book of Proverbs.
Okay.
I'm up to chapter 6 or 7 right now. And this is the second time I've done this in the last 5 years. Never have I approached it from an academic point of view. I'm not doing any research on this. I'm beginning to think it might be good for me to go back and do something.
Right.
You know?
The book of Proverbs is underrated, I think, and certainly speaks to us today. Mm-hmm. So here, the wisdom speaks to us that our goal should not be seeking wealth, but if we have wisdom, we will have wealth, right? Now, in chapter 8, beginning of verse 22, is the next part I was talking about, where wisdom says, the Lord created me at the beginning of his work, the first of his acts of long ago. Ages ago, I was set up at the first, before the beginning of the earth. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no springs abounding with water, before the mountains had been shaped, before the hills, I was brought forth. When he had not yet made earth and fields or the world's first bits of soil. When he established the heavens, I was there. When he drew a circle on the face of the deep, when he made firm the skies above, when he established the fountains of the deep, when he assigned to the sea its limit, so that the waters might transgress his command, when he marked out the foundations of the earth, then I was beside him like a master worker, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing before him always, rejoicing in his inhabited world, and delighting in the human race. Well, now think about this description compared to Genesis.
Yeah, where is it in Genesis? I mean, that's crazy.
So, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, this is a fascinating parallel, right? Because we don't read of wisdom per se in Genesis. But Solomon says wisdom was present. So there's 2 or 3 options at least on this. So Genesis says that in the beginning, the Spirit of God hovered over the waters.
We know that.
The Spirit. Is it possible that wisdom is the Holy Spirit? Maybe. Is it possible that Jesus is wisdom? Is it possible that the whole of the Trinity embodies wisdom? Right? I think there's multiple ways you could think about this, but the point Solomon's making is that wisdom undergirds everything about the way the Trinity functions from the beginning of time. That's a real challenging thought, to me, at least. Yes?
Well, if you subscribe to the Big Bang Theory, which I do, once the Earth had been formed, maybe the evolution of everything is all relates to wisdom at work.
So I think, once again, we have a lot to learn from our Native American brothers and sisters who are much more historically attuned to creation and nature and the wisdom within it, right? From healing to living, right? And we look at it and say, well, that's almost mythological, right? But within those myths, there are truths, right? And from that, we can learn wisdom. Every year it seems like we're learning new things that bring healing power to the body that are natural in their origin, right? And there are ways that we're finding to adapt things that are here on earth that provide healing or help to us. And this is part of tapping into the wisdom of creation, right? What's not wisdom is to say, life is about me and what I want. Life is about me harvesting the fruit of the earth and the future generations be damned, right? All of this notion that I've got to get mine right now is foolishness, according to Proverbs. These are the not wise people. Yep, Jim?
That's the problem, is that we're dealing with such an abstract, set of values. It's not finite. We don't have, this is wise up to this point, and this is not. You're not wisdom. So when someone makes some really stupid decisions, and politics comes to mind, of course, you're going, well, that's not wise at all. They're really stupid. The constituents just are idiots. And so that seems to be the problem with wisdom, where just wisdom is such a difficult thing to define.
Oh, yes.
As far as who is wise, who is not, who defines.
Because a lot of people who are idiots think they're wise.
I just took my COVID booster.
Yeah.
And I posted a little thing they had that said,
Right.
you need to still take it because this, and 90% of the people who don't get it are,
Right.
Those kind of things in the hospital, that kind of thing. And I got a bunch of people who came and said, you're a fool. You're falling for this. Where are these people?
So this is a great illustration. Right. So people who think they have wisdom, and we would say are the ones who are foolish. And this is exactly what Proverbs is talking about, is people who think they're wise but are actually foolish, right? And how do we convince people that you're the wise one, right, and they're not? This is a real problem.
Wise in their own eyes.
Wise in their own eyes.
What
Yep.
is that verse?
I don't know.
They thought they were wise.
Oh, yeah, well, that's
Over
Paul.
and over again in the history.
Yeah, that's Paul. We got problems with Paul. We're going to get to him next week on this. Yeah. Let me finish today with one other Old Testament passage, and that is from Psalm 19. Psalm 19. Let's just take a quick look at that. Oops. All right. I'll get it. That's fine. Psalm 19. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims his handiwork. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night declares knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words. Their voice is not heard. Yet their voice goes out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In the heavens he has set a tent for the sun, which comes out like a bridegroom from his wedding canopy, and like a strong man runs its course with joy. Its rising is from the end of the heavens, and its circuit to the end of them, as nothing is hid from its heat. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The decrees of the Lord are sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord, the commandment, singular, of the Lord is clear, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The ordinances of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, even much fine gold, sweeter than honey, and also drippings of the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is your servant warned. In keeping them there is great reward. But who can detect their errors? Clear me from hidden faults. Keep back your servant also from the insolent. Do not let them have dominion over me. Then I shall be blameless and innocent of great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and redeemer. I think this illustrates the ongoing challenge that's recorded even by King David. That remember that, so Solomon is the son of King David. So the wisdom of Solomon has not been written when this psalm is being written. We're going backward now, right? So in chronology, we're going backward. And here is a psalm that calls us to be in tune with the way God has created the earth And y'all, this is basic stuff. This is a call to believe science. It's a call to believe that God has created the earth with purpose and that we need to listen to what the earth tells us.
You're mentioning Native Americans.
Yes.
I happen to have that as part of my ancestry. I think 1/8 or something like this.
I thought I was until I did 23andMe.
I remember my dad saying he hated to go fishing with his uncle, who was half Indian, and
Yeah.
was my grandmother, his sister. Because he said if we needed 5 fish for supper, and they fished and hunted for food, not for
Right.
killing somebody or something. He said if we needed 5 fish, when that 5th fish came in, that was the end of the fishing. He said, and if you know anything about fishing, you know, if you ever get into a school of fish,
Yeah.
and they're biting like crazy, that's the time to pull in as many as you can, as fast as you can. And we could be in the middle of that, and Uncle Steve would say, nope, that's all we need. The rest will be there at a later time when we need them later. He was keenly connected to the land.
So here is a beautiful illustration of not being greedy.
Right.
Right? And how, when Jesus says, the love of money is the root of all evil, it goes back to this driving motivator of greed. I need my tax cut. I need my incentive. I need mine. I need mine. I need mine. Everyone else be damned. I don't care about you. Right? This is, James Carville, Bill Clinton got elected on that saying, it's the economy, stupid. Right? And I want to make the case over and over and over again that the economy is not the most important decision you ought to be thinking about in voting, right? It's not about your pocketbook. It's about being good stewards of creation. All right, yes, Jim.
I want to know, Mark, how about the proverbial 3 wise men?
Oh, the 3 wise men, right.
What made them wise?
So, Jim, this is, Jim's playing Jesus here. He's asking me a question he knows the answer to. They're actually magi. It's later folks who, in the translations, who call them wise men because they're astrologers and they're considered to have wisdom, right? Because what are they doing? They're following the stars. Right? They are paying attention to creation. And in these translations, that makes them wise, right? And I think that's a great connection. It's a good point to end. We'll pick up next week with some New Testament passages about wisdom, and it gets more complicated. Thank you, Paul, for that. It gets more complicated.
Carry with that is magic, magi. Does that have anything to do with it?
No, different words. All right, let's pray, and then Charlene's going to come and give us, yes.
I was going to say, we might ought to tell Rob Campos happy birthday. He's in Houston. Today is his birthday, and he's one of the youngest ones in here.
Yeah, Rob, happy birthday. We miss you today. Hope you're having a good time in Houston. Very well. All right, let's pray together. God, grant us wisdom. Help us to be attentive to your work in the world and the voice of wisdom crying out in creation. To listen and heed, we pray. Through Jesus Christ. Amen.